So I wanted to address your comments. I did read them. Fortunately, I don't have them with me, but I do want you to know that I read them, and I just wanted to go over two more of the comments. First and foremost, the reason you're getting this in a video rather than in the lecture is because one of the comments was, can we please do more of those in-class sections? In other words, those in-class exercise sessions where you work on something, right? So here I'm flipping the lecture. Here I'm going to put the lecture videos online for you to watch. And we're going to try to do as many more lecture videos as possible. So that's pretty cool. The second thing that I got from a number of students, including via an email, is why in the world do I give you a coding exam on paper? Why am I asking you to write a program with this on this, which seems, a bit, unintuitive, I'm sure. Whoops, there we go. So why am I having you use these things? Well, because I've said a couple of times, hopefully in this class, and I've definitely said it in 2168, these are your most valuable tools, not the computer, these things, okay? So a lot of times, if you have an idea, it's easier to jot it down on paper if it just comes to you, right? Some pseudocode, just write it down on paper or something if it just comes to you, because pencils are always lying around, or they're always something you can steal from somebody. I mean, borrow, not steal. Not that you've probably ever, although try to think to the last time that you used a pen till it was out of ink. Pens are ephemeral. They don't belong to anybody. They just jump from one person to another. But that goes, into your philosophy class again. So, but why? So first off, my personal reasons, it makes my life easier, which is not a good reason, but it's an honest reason. It's part of the reason I have you demo things. Having you, try and, having you write programs, submit them online, grading them is a pain in the rear. I have to download all the programs, run them, fix the minor errors that occur, okay? Not some stuff that I don't want to take off too much credit for, right? And then, although if it was a coding exam and you got to use an IDE, but that gets into other problems, right? Fix the minor errors that occur, assuming you're not allowed to use an IDE, and then, run it to see if it actually works. That takes a while. It's a pretty tedious step, especially when you have like 60 students. So that's one reason. It's easy, and on paper, it's just quicker to go through it and just jot down the answer, or jot down how many points you got on that. And generally on paper, we're pretty good at checking if it's quickly. Next are other logistical reasons for me. If you remember in the timed lab, you might have had some issues. You probably saw plenty of students having issues setting up their computer or setting up their IDE, getting the problems loaded into their computer, or just starting up the program. The computer was slow, right? That's something I have to account for. And I'd rather, on paper, I don't have to account for any of that. I don't have to account for software difficulties. I don't have to account for your laptop not working. I don't have to account for the school's computer not working. I don't account for the login process being slow and you having to switch to the computer. I don't have to account for those. I don't have to make exceptions for those. Your paper is not going to crash, right? There's all these sort of little things that crop up when you throw electronics into the mix. Things can go wrong. That's why when I have you work in class, I tell you to pair up. Not just because pair programming is good, but because, at least I'd say about, this allows us to remove from the equation the laptops that can't be relied upon if you can't rely on your laptop, right? So this allows us to minimize problems. And on an exam where I'm asking you all these questions, I don't want you to be working on that. So that's another thing. Also, we'd have to be much more aggressive in checking for cheating. I mean, we're already, making sure that you're not using your phones and stuff like that. But we'd also have to be making sure, okay, you can use the internet browser to download the problems, right? And to submit them, right? But then we'd actually have to be checking the content of the internet browser rather than just checking to make sure you're not using the computer, which is entirely different, right? That's a pain in the butt for us. That's a lot of work. That's, again, completely negated by using paper, okay? But those are all selfish reasons. But honestly, the real reason is because was actually alluded to in one of the questions I got. It's like, why can't I use the computer? Because when I'm writing something, I can check my answers. And I'm like, exactly. You can check your answers with the compiler. When you're on paper, you actually have to look at what you're writing. You actually have to read what you're writing. And you actually have to know what your writing does. You have to have an idea about it. You can't just mash your way through the program and change a few variables, right? You actually have to know what you're writing. You have to try what, you have to, be able to put your thoughts into an algorithm. So this is a very important skill for that we need to test. And allowing you to use programming, allowing you to use code allowing you to use the IDE won't just deal with that. I think my wife is coming to tell me that dinner is ready. Yes, I will be there in a second. I am addressing their complaints or / criticisms that they left on the exam. So,
complain more.
Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely, if you're having issues, please let me know.
It can't get better if you don't tell him what's bad.
Right, that's pretty much it. If you're suffering silently, I can't alleviate your suffering. So please tell me if you're having issues with the class. I also got requests for like more homework and a few requests for less homework, but more requests for more homework. And that's just simply because until you get to like the for the people who programmed before, the first exercises are not actually too bad. If you programmed before, the only thing that really throws you for a loop is possibly the Pig Latin and definitely the time date program, because that one doesn't care about how much of an experienced programmer you are. It's one of those marvelous problems that's maybe slightly tougher for the first people who are programming, just because they have to line up the if statements correctly. But the logic of figuring out the modular arithmetic in that problem is just as hard for the people who have been programming for 5 years as it is for the person who have been programming for 5 weeks. So that's why I like that problem a whole lot. So we will be getting into much more interesting problems, especially with the in-class exercises. We're going to take a look at some statistical methods we could use to detect fraud, which is always pretty awesome. It doesn't sound exciting if you're not like targeting working for the IRS or something like that, but it's always useful to know how people fudge the data and how we can detect people fudging the data. So programs, so there will be more stuff to work on. If for no other reason, then we're going to be doing a lot more stuff in class. Okay, so that being said, I have a dinner to eat, so I'll get back to this later.